Right, you're recording, sort
Excellent.
of.
Okay. So my name's Sian. I joined the Career Pilot team in September, so I've been very much a lockdown starter to a new role, maybe like many of you. My previous experiences as an enterprise coordinator for Berkshire. So some of the things that you might hear from me today might sort of ring true with the people that you've been working with within your setting or with enterprise coordinators in your area. So ultimately, what is virtual work experience, and how can we make it meaningful? So this is making it meaningful is something that has come from the Careers and Enterprise company, and it's about embedding a work experience process that gives the biggest impact to young people. Now we know Sir John Holman obviously helped create the Gatsby benchmarks, and he released a statement in June to state this, so that interactive activities are more impactful and lasting, and this is just as true in careers. So it was that real emphasis on having that interaction between students and people from the world of work. The unpredictability of a two-way conversation is obviously key. So actually being able to think on your feet and getting students to think on their feet in that situation, and those sorts of things are really key. So what virtual work experience is not just a static video, or it shouldn't just be a static video that a student should sit there and watch. It doesn't matter whether it's a really whizzy virtual tour. There's a really there's sort of core things that need to be part of a meaningful virtual work experience, and that mostly is about making it interactive. Okay, Sue. So our changing world, we've all we've seen it changing. We've all got anxieties and thoughts on what might happen in the future, and I've just sort of put together maybe some things that are here to stay, really, and things to note on going forward, and as we start to emerge out of this COVID world. Virtual interviews, I think they have been quite time effective, and the benefits of those: less anxiety and less hiding, more hiding behind a screen, might fill students and young people with more confidence. We've got virtual meetings, which might be more productive, no popping off to sort of get coffee. It's get to the point and get it over and done with. Online tours, we've got the benefits of that. So revisiting areas that someone might not remember so clearly. Even with virtual work experience, there's less anxieties, you can do more preparation, and it's at a slower pace. And it's, you're able to sort of recall these things a bit easier than maybe a muddle of all different things that might be happening during your typical work experience session. We might see more online testing and task-based interviews, and the ability of a person should be able to come through that, rather than maybe some anxieties that are caused by interviews, and maybe the end of the handshake. So I just wanted to give you some top tips, really, on how these things should be. That's animation hasn't worked, Sue, but the first one is it should be a two-way interaction. So I was given actually a couple of websites that were that were available to young people, and to make a work experience, a virtual work experience placement meaningful, it needs to be a two-way interaction. So a position where a young person can ask questions, or they can have some sort of conversation with an employer, or maybe even prepare some questions for them to be answered as a class. It needs to be end-to-end learning, so each career activity, especially with virtual work experience, to have a beginning, middle and end, the same as any sort of teaching model. You've got your do now, your new learning, the talking task element, independent tasks that are built into it, and the plenary. And the best bet as well is to embed it and make it relevant to curriculum teaching. So virtual work experience and career learning is much more powerful when it's linked to subjects. It gives it that relevancy. So can virtual work experience be used within subjects as a plenary or end of term activity? So that's just a bit of food for thought there, and some top tips to help you get virtual work experience into your curriculum and into your programs quite easily. Okay, and so we're just moving on, and finally, just to think about making it meaningful and how this should be implemented throughout the whole careers program, and not just virtual work experience. First of all, the first thing you need to focus on is the planning. So how Career Pilot can help you within that. So if you could just move the slide on for me. So the Careers Enterprise Company came up with the Making It Meaningful process, and the first thing that they emphasise is the planning and the preparing to succeed. Career Pilot can help by emphasising real life stories. There's a reporting zone and the pathway planner triage, which can help you plan based on the needs of your students. And there's hot jobs, which are available through Career Pilot, which is something that links into the planning, because the planning needs to be informed by the local labour market. Implementation is the next stage of making it meaningful. So you need to engage with intent. We want students to build independent career management skills. So using the Career Pilot skills profile is a good way of doing that, and students can have a look and reflect on their careers learning. Part of the implementation as well is communicating with the wider school community. So using the advisor zone, teacher resources and the parent zone, that is available through Career Pilot. As anyone knows that works with students, reflecting on that learning is valuable, and providing the support and encouraging students to reflect on their experiences is crucial, and that's something that is contained within the Making It Meaningful process. And recording the experience, so someone can look back, a young person can look back on that that particular piece of learning. Again, using the skills map, the pathway planner that Career Pilot can offer, and the mapping to Compass and Compass Plus. Career Pilot can also offer a good way for you to use progress career learning. So again, that whole Making It Meaningful cycle, you can use Career Pilot as an all-through tool for students to input, track and practically use experiences and information to apply everything that they've learned in that process in the future. So ultimately, there are lots of tools within the Career Pilot system that can help you achieve those meaningful processes and help you engage with the virtual work experience world successfully. We will go on to talk about what is actually available within Career Pilot, I think, later on, but I'm going to hand over to Fiona, I think, now.
Okay, thanks so much for that, Sean. So Fiona's going to talk a little bit now from a Career Hub point of view about some of the things we've been doing. Let me just, do you want me to share your slides, Fiona, or do you want
yes,
to?
Yes, please. Very happy for you to steer it, Sue. It's all right. There's only 2 of them, so that's okay.
Yeah, that's right.
Short and sweet, I think, was the motto.
Yeah, hold on, I'll just get them up, which is just here. Okay, let me just do the slideshow. Okay, just reshare that. Okay, hopefully you can see Fiona's slides there. And just let me know. Next slide, please, as is the style of the moment.
Okay, that's fine. So just to say, as a starting point, as a careers hub, we needed to know where the challenges were for our schools. We did a survey. My colleague Gillian, in fact, did the survey and sent it out to the schools in the summer term after we'd come out of lockdown 1, when we didn't know that was going to be lockdown 1, but really asked what were the pressing needs, where did we as a careers hub need to look in order to respond. And as you can see, one of the key things that came out was work experience. I think everybody was conscious at that time about the years ones that had missed out on work experience, but also I think even then are thinking ahead. This was reinforced when we started meeting with our careers leaders at the beginning of the term to sort of talk about where they were going to go in this new academic year. And again, it was, okay, we need to go virtual. How do we go? Where do we go? What do we do? So there needed to be a response to that. So as a hub, we looked at various options to see which way we could go. We talked to other careers hubs and what they were doing. And in fact, the route we chose was actually very, very similar to a number of the other hubs across the Southwest region. So what I'm saying is actually mirrored in quite a few places. So going on to the next slide, Sue. 2 of 2. We looked at a 4-stranded response. We need to look at reviewing and sourcing a virtual work experience collaboration, something that could work at scale, that could be offered to all of our schools and colleges, and that would have the kind of response level that was needed if they all decided to take the offer up. So this was about finding a third party that careers leaders could work with and employers could work with that would meet the needs of the current situation. So using research, talking to other people, looking at various offerings, we made a decision to partner with Speakers for Schools. And that is very much about facilitating their engagement with our schools. We're not actually saying they're the only solution, I have to say. We're really promoting the fact that there are lots of other ways of doing this. But this seemed to be a reasonably straightforward one-stop shop for a lot of our schools to engage with and take forward. We also looked at that as a way of engaging with the employers with whom we work. Now, we're not a hub that has an EBP or an extensive employer network, so we were looking at the numbers of employers that we do work with, but how could we facilitate their access also to work experience? Again, through our Cornerstone network, our Enterprise Advisor network, we were hearing, we want to offer work experience, how can we do it? And again, one of the key things that comes through in any conversation about virtual work experience is safeguarding. So it was, how can we find a way that makes safeguarding work really straightforwardly, very easily? And that was the reason we went with Speakers for Schools. And we facilitated meetings. They could talk to our schools and colleges, and they could talk to our local employers. And then after that, it's up to people whether or not they take that forward. We also made it clear at both those seminars that there are other ways to do this. Apart from using another provider, which is obviously one route forward, we also wanted to look at how could we actually facilitate the system of self-serve so people can run their own work experience virtually. And I think actually the next speaker is going to be talking about this, and I'm looking forward to hearing what she says about this. So in order to support that, we've created some guides. There's a guide for the schools or on how you run a virtual work experience, possibly applicable to our colleges as well, but we think far less so because they tend to be more geared up to this kind of thing. There's also a guide for employers that our schools can then provide to the employer bank that they're already working with. So, for example, if they've already got a great work experience program going, how can they get those employers still on board? And particularly, I think those smaller employers, the really, really small companies. We're already engaging with some small companies through Workforce of the Future, but this was really about some of those other ones that really want to work just with their local school. So the guidance there is there to run that so the school can look at how they would do it for themselves without using anybody else's platform, without going down any other routes, but looking at a fairly straightforward way of doing it. In order to support that, we're also looking to run a pilot. As yet, we haven't decided which school will do that. We're talking to our career leaders about it. We're looking to who we'll work with. We've already done a small scale pilot on mock interviews. We want to do the same thing because we're absolutely certain that there are some wrinkles in this that we need to work our way through and find out how it's going to work. It's not going to be straightforward the first time. And absolutely, there's going to be some test runs and there's going to be some hiccups along the way. So we need to run a pilot to see how it can work. But absolutely, we think this is possible. The next thing we're going to do as our four-stranded response is try and collate the information. We know there are so many offers out there which are being offered, some being branded as virtual work experience, which in fact are employer engagements, some which are amazing but actually not doable in the curriculum and in the calendar. So collating all of that and bringing it all together to a single source made complete sense to us. And the other thing that made complete sense to us is to funnel that via Career Pilot. So I spoke to Sue about this, and anything that comes across our desks that we're not aware of already, we send that on to Careers Pilot, and they can then make sure that everybody knows that. We can signpost our career leaders to Career Pilot. So again, if you want to look at something that somebody else is offering, there are some mega offers out there. There really are. How practical they are in the curriculum, not quite sure, but there are some really brilliant offers out there. So that's the way we've gone. It's a four-stranded response, but the idea is to try and respond to what our career leaders are saying to us and to look at how we take that forward. How this will work, we don't know. The one thing we are sure of is this is going to continue. We can't see it coming to an end anytime soon. Clearly, virtual work experience is going to have a place to offer. I think face-to-face work experience will definitely back. There are things that are not covered by virtual, but there is scope for both here, and employers really are interested, are quite keen. We think we'll get some different employers on board that we've never had before. So again, it's about how can we make this work at the most basic level and keep it simple, straightforward, and take it forward so it becomes very much more like work experience has been for the last however many years.
Oh, thanks. Thanks for that, Fiona. Would it be possible for you to share your guidance? Are you able to do that? Because it sounds quite interesting, the guidance you've written for schools and employers.
Yeah, very happy to share it. What I would say is we've developed it, we've reviewed it, we've had employers involved in the writing of it, we've had reviews from career leaders. What I would say is it's still probably not a finished product, and we're very happy to get any kind of input on it that anybody may have. You know, I'm not saying we've got all the answers. This is what we put together so far. So
yeah,
with that caveat in mind, absolutely to share it. So
yeah, that'd be great. We can post it up on the lockdown tile in the Career Pilot Advisor Zone for other people to look at. So we'll pick up other questions to Fiona later.
Okay.
So we're going to go on now to talk to Kath. Kath, would you like to share your screen? Is that the easiest thing, or do you want me to post up?
Yeah, I'll try and share it.
Okay, let me stop sharing then. So Kath Young works at one of our local schools in Wiltshire and has been putting together ideas for virtual work experience. So it's quite a nice little practitioner to tell us what they've been trying to do. Okay, Kath?
Can you see my screen or not
Yeah.
yet? Yeah, you can. Brilliant. Okay. So from a practitioner point of view, we've started thinking about the virtual work experience and the types of things that we could pull together at the school. So I'm just going to talk through what we're doing. It's all work in progress at the moment, and obviously the ideas we've heard today and the reflections on work experience are really useful as part of the process we're going through. So the first thing that we're starting with our virtual work experience is just our school goals, and just really making sure that it ties up with exactly what we're aiming for at the school. So our careers vision is challenge, aspire and network, and that all lines up to the ultimate school goals and is part of the development and the school development plan and the vision for the school. So everything we want to achieve from virtual work experience needs to fit in with these goals to make sure that our students are actually benefiting from the virtual work experience in the areas that we feel they need to develop. So to start with, we thought about our aims, and I think, you know, someone once said to me, you know, what are your aims for work experience? And it's such a good reflection point just to sit back and think, what is it we actually want to get from the virtual work experience, or the work experience if it were to be face to face. So we've pulled together our aims, and again, they match up with the vision that we've got for our students. So challenging themselves, meeting different employers so they can aspire high, and then actually networking, you know, building that network, building that confidence to talk to other people and to talk to adults and to understand what they do. We began right early in the year with a workshop from Career Pilot, and although students were in school, we weren't allowed visitors in. So Career Pilot delivered that virtually. It was one of the first virtual events we did. A few IT teething problems to start with, and then it went really, really well. And the students managed to have that experience, understanding what work experience was about. And there was part of this workshop that talked about virtual work experience because we thought that might be happening. So if you haven't done that already and you have access to the Career Pilot workshops, I would really recommend that. And that could even be held as a lesson while students are isolating at home. We work with Skills Builder Partnership. This is something that any school can do, and it just gives us real focus on the skills that we want our students to be building on. And those logos become a common language, and it just means that when we're doing virtual work experience, we can reflect it back to those 8 essential skills and make sure that when they do their pre-virtual work experience planning, they can think about what they want to improve. And then at the end of virtual work experience, they can see, actually, did they develop any of those essential skills that employers will want to know about when they put their CVs in or they go for interviews. So I'd recommend, if you're not already using those icons or you're looking to improve your skills, language and awareness, then we're finding that a really, really useful tool to use at school. Then to start sorting support for virtual work experience, it was part of our careers programme that we presented, and each year we have a breakfast. So we had one in person last year, and then this year obviously we did it virtually. And just explain what the careers programme was, what the opportunities were for employers and education providers to work with us. And being part of virtual work experience was part of that form that they completed at the end, an online form. So it's given us a database of employers who would like to work on our virtual work experience programme that we can now begin to contact. And this is the beginnings of the plan that we've come up with. And actually, the idea came from just thinking about, you know, what do students do when they go to work experience? And a lot of, not every student, but many students, they go into a business, they might have the opportunity to talk to different employers from different departments, find out what people do, take part in small projects, give email pieces of work to perhaps their manager for feedback. So we decided that recreating this type of day at school, and instead of doing a whole week work experience, it would just happen in a day when it would normally be that work experience week. We decided that actually our UniConnect support, the WIN, the Wessex Inspiration Network, would be great to work with on this as kind of the main manager of the day. And the idea is that the tutor group or the class would be with their teacher. There might have been some preparation beforehand, but on the day they get introduced to what the day is all about and given a brief. And then they have a meeting one via Teams with the WIN manager, who's explaining what the project is, what they need, what their timings are, and given expectations like a student would receive when they went to work. The students will then in groups be given time to plan their approach to the problem. And then on Teams, we'll have the employers that have said that they would be willing to work with us on virtual work experience in different Teams meetings. And those students can access those meetings and meet those employers to gain the information that they need to be able to solve this problem that they've been given. And then there'll be another meeting halfway through the day where they can brief the WIN manager, in our case, the lead employer, with how they're getting on, what they're doing, and then the WIN manager will give them a change. Like happens every day at work, changes occur. We've got to be able to react, be flexible. So that will happen, and the teams will have to go off and change slightly their proposals to take into account what that would be. And then at the end of the day, they have another meeting with the lead, in our case, the WIN manager, to discuss and to put their proposal forward. And the WIN manager will give the feedback and explain which proposal they're going to go for, a little bit like a bidding process that some businesses see. So it just enables them to meet lots of different people, find out a bit about different departments, but also put it into a working brief and a proposal. The idea that we're having at the moment is around an Olympics. So a Southwest Olympics is happening. It's a big event. They need to answer lots of questions and find information about how the Olympics can be set up. And therefore they need to meet people from catering, they need to meet people from finance, they need to meet people from design, marketing, so all sorts of different departments. We've based those departments on those employers that have said that they would be willing to work with us on this project. When we're planning it, and again, it's in the early days, so any great ideas that you can add to this, it would, you know, be really, really welcome. But when we're planning it for in school. So students are all in school, employers are via Teams. And also we're planning it with a full virtual plan. So if everybody is in lockdown, then this could still happen, but how would that happen? So as we're going through each of the steps, we're working out both scenarios. On top of that, so that would be a virtual work experience day that every student can access that we're delivering. But on top of that, we're also advertising other virtual work experience opportunities like the Speakers for Schools, for example. And those opportunities, we've set up a careers website, kjcareers.com, so that any opportunity our students get, we just upload them very quickly onto the website, and it's just all in one place for students to access and see what's available. And then we're encouraging them to apply for that. So there's lots for February half term at the moment, so we're encouraging those. And there are no doubt be more coming out across the year. So it's a quick and easy way that we can communicate from one place. So that's the plan at the moment. And yeah, any questions really, you know, I'd be very welcome to answer them or to hear your ideas that we could add to that as well.
So what we'll do, if it's okay with you, is if you want to put something in chat as a question, that we'll pick those up. But what we'll do is carry on with our presentations, and then our chat and share session, then we can put our questions to Kath, because I'm sure you've got lots of ideas. But that was great, Kath. It's really great to know how it's working, you know, the plan for how it might work on the ground with your students. So do put your questions into chat and we will pick them up later. But thanks very much. That's brilliant, Kath.
Thank you.
As always. Okay, so thanks for that. wait a minute, my thing's just gone weird on me. Oh, wait a minute, what's going on there? There we are. Just to say too then, I know a few people mentioned Career Pilot and Kath mentioned that session, so I just wanted to talk a little bit about that. Just to say, in Career Pilot, in the jobs area of the student site, then there is a whole button called Find a Job or Experience. And in that section, what we're trying to do is collate any virtual work experiences we hear about. And as Fiona said, if WECA hear of any, they'll be telling us what they are. We've tried to now categorize them a little bit by different job sectors, if that's a relevant thing. Some are quite generic. So if you go in there, there might be links or things for students to look at or for you to have a little look at. In terms of that presentation that Kath talked about, we were able to do it in Kath's school because the WIN UniConnect pay us to deliver particular workshops in their schools. So I'm afraid that offer isn't open to all schools. However, I've put the presentation here and I've also recorded it as a lesson. So this is me delivering it just like I did to Kath's school. And it says, you know, how many minutes the students have got to do a particular activity. So all the slides are there and it's me talking them through it. So you can have the presentation or you can have me virtually delivering your lesson. And it will take students through how they, you know, prepare for what they've got to offer to work experience, like doing the skills map so they know what skills they've got, but also doing our job sector quiz so that they can actually look at sectors where they might do work experience in, and then talking about what is virtual work experience and then showing them the different opportunities we've got on Career Pilot as a start off. So if you want to access that, you just go to that job section, find in job or work experience, and then there's a whole bit about virtual work experience, and that presentation is downloadable. Change it, do whatever you want with it, but it's there as a start off. Okay, so I'm going to pass across now to Caroline McKinnon. Thank you so much for coming along, Caroline. Do you want me to show your slides or do you want to share them yourself?
Shall I try and share them?
Yeah, let me just stop sharing.
Let's see. Is that okay for everyone?
Yeah, it's up. Right. It's all working.
Thank you. Thank you. So my name's Caroline and I work in the University of Bristol, and thank you very much for allowing me to come and talk to you today about a virtual work experience week that we ran last year. So our original plan was that we were going to invite 20 Year 10 pupils to come and do work experience in person in our teaching labs. And of course, because of the pandemic, everything was cancelled. So lockdown meant that no in-person work experience could take place. So we decided that what we would do rather than do nothing is transfer everything onto a virtual platform, and we use the eBiolabs community site. We contacted schools to see if they would like to have this content shared for their Year 10 pupils. And because this was in lockdown 1 and everything was a bit unknown, pupils could log on at any time because we didn't know how many people would be sharing devices within their family, obviously trying to get schoolwork done. So we said that people could log on at a time convenient to them, but a contact was given for the week who was available in case of any problems or questions. So this is the eBiolabs community site, and we use another eBiolabs site in our teaching to our undergraduate students. So it's quite nice that we can use the same system. There's some really nice positives to this. It's free for users, so people can just sign up and have a free account. It contains content for multiple subjects, so it's not just biochemistry, but there's other content on there. And it also supports a number of different content types. So it isn't just text, you can have videos, animation, interactive quizzes, different kind of stuff that's on there. So this is an example of one of the modules that I wrote, and this was a kind of topical one for coronavirus. So every day started with an introductory video to explain the subject and what we were going to do during the day. And you can see here that on the left-hand side, there's an introduction, and on the right-hand side, there's a table of content, so people could click through to the different sections. This was then followed by a number of techniques that was used for each module. So here we spoke about the types of techniques that were used in the coronavirus testing, so testing for COVID-19. So we had diagrams followed by animations and different videos. And then we had a series of experiments that students could do. And in the case of this one, we had case studies so that we could look at different patients and the results of the tests, and students had to write down what they thought the conclusions were given the results from the different tests. But these experiments changed every day depending on which module was being discussed. After that, there was another video which explained the results, and also a series of activities for every module. And again, these differed depending on which module we were talking about, where pupils could do either hands-on or interactive activities. And then this was also followed by a sheet which gave pupils the opportunity to go and do some further study if they were interested in that particular module. So if it was regards to DNA research or diabetes research, they were then directed to further reading as well. So virtual work experience, as I'm sure we're aware, there's some negatives to this. Obviously with biochemistry, a lot of it is the hands-on aspect. That's lost in a virtual way, as is the experience of coming into the university itself to see what that's like, and the experience of cohort building with the other participants. But the positives for this is that the virtual work platform did allow the work experience to go ahead in the first place. And the use of different content types allows for a varied teaching experience. So with the text and also the animations, the different videos, the activities that they had to work through, and then some hands-on activities as well. Our audience was much greater than planned for the in-person work experience because we only aimed this for 20 students. However, we had about 80 hits on this over the week, which was quite nice. And also it means that the resources are there, so we don't have to only run this at one time in the year. We can run it at any time when a school contacts us. That's really easy just to set up because we just need to have somebody there that's available. And also our knowledge of doing this has moved on as well, so we are likely to have more live sessions as well, if that permits, if pupils are then back within school time. And teaching in the future is likely to include more virtual formats anyway, so this gives the pupils a really good insight into the styles of teaching that students might be facing more of in the future. So that's a very whistle-stop tour of what we did. Gail is here as well, who's our engagement officer, so when we do the chat session, Gail and I are happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. That was really interesting, and it's great how you've managed to develop that and be able to hit a lot more people with it as well, which I think is another benefit to some of the virtual stuff. Okay, I'm just going to flick through those quickly. Okay, so just to say now is an over to you really. So we've got about 10 minutes where you could ask a question or make an observation or tell us about something you know about virtual work experience. Just a few things are in the chat already. Rose has posted up that the Careers and Enterprise Company also have a summary of national work experience, virtual work experience opportunities, and there's a link to that, and I will put that into Career Pilot. And Gail has confirmed that anybody can have an account to the eBiolabs community. Right, so Susie's got a point here about whether it would meet the Gatsby requirements, as there's no direct interaction with an employer. Anybody got a thought on that?
It is something that we can do because this was in lockdown 1. Pupils weren't in school at the time, but if pupils are back in school and we're not able to obviously go into schools, we do live sessions now as well. So when we first set this up, we'd literally gone into lockdown, but obviously now we have done live sessions since the first rollout of this, so it is something that we're able to do now.
So the live sessions then are with employers are involved in that as well, I guess is how we think. I'm like, oh, great. Okay, that sounds good. So Rose has got asking a question here. I'd be really interested in ideas for how schools monitor and evaluate these virtual work experience opportunities for students. Yeah, and I could see that that would be a big thing for us to think about. Has anybody got any ideas on that already? Anybody been looking at how you evaluate these impacts. I mean, I suppose, Kath, you've already sort of set up some specific reasons for doing it. You've got your aims. So are you thinking about how you're going to check out whether the students have met those things?
Yeah, definitely. And against the skills as well, that where they feel they are compared to them where they feel they are at the end. And I think one of the biggest things for me, some people might be more IT forward than me, but I never used forms before, and that's just been a huge turning point, like getting information from students and just having it all in a downloadable spreadsheet. That's made a huge time saving. And also the students tend to do it actually more than they would, a paper feedback. So yeah, I think that's a really good way and it does all the graphs for you. So it's kind of a great solution.
It's quite easy.
Sorry, we evaluated ours through forms as well. It was just to get the opinions of the pupils. It's the first time that we ran it.
Okay, so Sean's posted up something. Take a look at this for two-way interactive experiences. Shortlist.me. So there's another link that some people might want to have a look at. Anybody want to ask a question of any of our presenters? Okay, don't feel you have to. That's fine. Okay, so we're now up to it's about 4:10. So what we'll do now is just have a few minutes break, and then we'll come back. So at 4:15, and then we'll get going on the next bit where we've got 2 third-party organisations talking about how they can help you put virtual work experience together. So that's 5 minutes. Well, it's about 4 minutes really. So if we come back by about 4:15 for the next part of the session.